everybody. Welcome to It Was Tuesday with your host, James Chen, aka Jay Chenzor. Obviously, a very exciting weekend for fighting games this past weekend. Lots of events going on. Evo Japan 2024, Texas Showdown. And I personally was at the Level Up Expo in Las Vegas in a preview of the Las Vegas Convention Center space over there. But today, we're actually going to be talking mostly about Evo Japan, just because so much stuff happening over there. And of course, Evo Japan is, the more it goes on, the more prestige this event is starting to get, obviously with the Evo name. But in the past, people have talked about how it didn't feel like it was run as well, etc., etc. But this year, apparently a lot of people, I've seen Giuna talk about it. I saw Fubar Duck talk about it, and just basically saying that the tournament was run extremely well this year. Lots of things on time. So, and obviously the results have been absolutely crazy. So we're basically just going to be talking largely about Evo Japan today. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about the other games, the other events a little bit towards the end, but let's just get into these Evo Japan results, because I think there's a lot to be learned about the results from Evo Japan, and this is the kind of thing that I like to do in general after an event of Evo Japan scale is done. Again, 5,000 entrants for Street Fighter 6, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, we're definitely gotten to the point where these events have grown to 5,089 players signed up for Street Fighter 6. So Evo Japan definitely getting to that level, that regular Evo is going to be. And then, obviously they talked a little bit about CPT going back to Japan next year. So dude, last chance qualifiers there are going to be insane, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Let's talk about each game one by one here, and we're going to start with the big one, of course, and that is Street Fighter 6. Top 6 were Moke and VX Bao, and then Ryukichi, Lex, from originally from the States, from New York, now currently living in England, but JB's younger brother, I believe younger brother, Lex. And then, of course, Kakeru and MenaRD taking the event over here. And, I don't know what people can say about this anymore. I did a video a few weeks back basically asking, is MenaRD the best in the world right now, because after Red Bull Kumite, and I still had some people in my comments that were like, no, man, well, after Red Bull Kumite, that's not enough. MENA's, like all these excuses and everything. But can we actually sit here and say that MenaRD is not heads and shoulders above everybody else in Street Fighter 6 right now? I just don't think that there's any argument at this point. Ryukichi with Ken came the closest to beating MenaRD with an amazing comeback in Game 4 to take it to the last game. But outside of that, MenaRD just basically ran through everybody. 3-0 over Lex, and then 3-0 over Kakeru. And I mean, the Kakeru match was like a freaking speed run, and Kakeru had been the player that had defeated MenaRD several times, Gamers 8, for example. So, the fact that MenaRD just came back here and just 3-0'd Kakeru in like speed run fashion is absolutely wild. We talked about this before, it's talking about Japan as a region. Clearly, Japan's still very strong as the region, if not the strongest region. That's without question. But at the top level, at the absolute tippy top, for sure, MenaRD is number one. So, dude... MenaRD is ridiculous, right? And the best thing about it, he has two characters that he can use that give you such complete different looks and can beat you in very, very different ways in Luke and Blanka. And it really helps how Oh yeah, Mena won FAV Cup in Japan. He won Team USA in SFL. Exactly. Like, how does anybody argue this? But you know what is it? Like, he has control over two characters that are both so incredibly strong in this game, and both fight you in completely different ways, right? Luke can kind of sort of patient you to death, fundamental you to death, force you to make your own mistakes. And then Blanka just has the ability to completely overrun you and destroy you and just not even give you a chance to think. You know, look, I did the video last week, and you know, I was saying I've been telling everybody that Blanka's top tier, but you know, you watch what MenaRD did to Kakeru in grand finals, and dude, like some of those burnout sequences with level 2 and the pressure that Blanka gets, he actually gets throw loops off of back throw and forward throw without needing to use drive gauge, at least back throw into the corner. A lot of characters don't get throw loops in the back, you know, after back throw in the corner, but Blanka just surprise hops and he's back there again. Lightning Beast is like, it's like not even close. I mean, well, Isar is close as the strongest level 2 super, but even then, the more you see it, the more I'm starting to believe that, you know, Lightning Beast is just ridiculous. It's just, it's so good. And the fact that it's a level 2 and not a level 3 is just that much even more frightening. So that makes Blanka super, super powerful. Oh man, Blanka is just, I mean, he's ridiculous as a character, and so was Luke, right? Luke, obviously really strong, like I said, can fundamental you to death. But here's the thing, right? Like, we could talk about these characters who are blue in the face, and, you know, obviously the message here is not that MenaRD is carried by his characters, because nobody else is doing what he's doing with those characters. And as as a player, you should be choosing strongest characters, right? I mean, everybody has the ability to choose these characters, right? And MenaRD just has, I feel like, the best pair of characters to use in the game. As the game goes on, like, I know people are going to consider me crazy, but I kind of gave a preview last week, but I really think Luke and Blanka are starting to become number 1 and number 2. Now, am I biased because I hate Blanka? I hate fighting Blanka? Maybe. Am I biased because MenaRD is just making the characters look that way? Perhaps. But, you know, even just outside of top 6 was Potato Man. And if you guys don't know Potato Man, that is a China player who goes also by the name of Liang Liang. And I thought at the time that I saw him during ICFC was clearly the best Blanka that I had ever seen. He was ridiculous, and he was just doing all the crazy stuff. And he had a lot of fundamentals, but he doesn't have fundamentals like MenaRD. But the fact that Potato Man came so close to getting to that top 6, and in fact would have been top 8 had it not been an Evo, yeah, I mean, absolutely, we would have saw some more Blanka as well. But again, like, MenaRD is just, he's too fundamentally sound. You know, to say that somebody else out there could have the success that Mena has if they picked Luke and Blanka is just false, right? I mean, literally, the decision-making that Mena uses, the kinds of practice that he does, the way that he takes advantage of the game's, you know, mechanics and systems and play, you know, play meta, I guess you can call it, is just another level. And yeah, seems like MENA is vibing with SF6's system too. I mean, you could say that, but obviously he was super good in 5 as well. Now, there are very strong similarities between the games because they are both very frame data heavy kind of games. But even still, like, I feel like MENA could be good at just about any game that he puts his hands on, you know. But, you know, at this point, can we call him the greatest of all time? Probably not yet. Can we call him the greatest Street Fighter player of all time? Probably not yet, just because the old games are all such a very, very different styles. And, you know, I would love to see if MenaRD could learn like an Alpha 2 enough to beat a John Choi. But again, that's never going to happen. That's just pure speculation. There's no reason for MenaRD to waste his time on Street Fighter Alpha 2. Let's just put it that way. And I don't know if MENA would completely work Tomo Ohira. I think that is just one of those like, we'll never be able to prove. We'll never be able to prove this, kind of a point here. But again, as a person who has seen Tomo, if Tomo grew up in the same environment as MENA, where winning $1 million for fighting game was an absolute possibility, Tomo would be on another level that is just crazy. Let's just put it that way, right? Like, we don't know. It's unfair to compare the different eras because of, the access to training modes, to the access to actual careers and Twitch existing and prize pools and world tours existing. It's an unfair comparison to make because players like a Tomo or like a Mike Watson or even an Alex Vai or a Justin Wong, Justin Wong didn't get to grow up in that environment. I mean, I made an Evo DVD trailer where Justin Wong's like, yo, $5,000 prize pool means a lot to people. And like nowadays we look at that and we laugh. But Justin Wong grew up in an era where $5,000 was a huge deal, was a big deal. So, what are we going to do, man? What are we going to do? Yeah, I mean, oh, hey, what's up, Lee Chung? Thank you for the raid. Appreciate it. Appreciate it very, 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 very much. So, dude, you can't even talk about Tomo in Street Fighter 4, and I don't even know if Tomo actually even played Street Fighter 4. Was that actually a Tomo? Because there was another person who was named Tomo, and there was a lot of people pretending to be Tomo, but it doesn't matter. How can you even compare it when Tomo stopped playing fighting games at Super Street Fighter 2? Like, how do we even talk about that? Like, you can't even, like, make that conversation, It's like, this doesn't even make any sense to try to bring that up. This doesn't even make sense to even try to bring that up as an argument onto who's better or not. So, and yeah, calm down. Let's play anymore, and then we're gonna have to do some moderation over here. So, but again, MenaRD clearly right now the GOAT, right? Yeah, like in today's era, right now, there is no question to me that he is the GOAT. And that he is absolutely another level. He's so good, right? He is just, he's a different breed. He really is. I don't know if Uma was at Evo Japan. I don't think he's there. I don't think he was there at all. But again, it's not even just Blanka, John the Automaton. He's got Blanka and Luke, right? And that is one of the things that makes him so strong. But, one of the things that I think might make MENA stand out a lot more is, his dedication to the game is so very different than a lot of people out there. He's just focused on winning. He's not as concerned about, the content creation and all this stuff like that. And, I still remember saying that somebody said that when he went out to Japan for FAV Cup, they were saying like, I have never seen anybody train the way he does. And he's so dedicated to it. I mean, it's very, obviously for me as an LA native, I can say this kind of thing. I know other people might just be like, oh God, whatever, James. But like, MenaRD has like Mamba mentality, he's got that weird Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant mindset that I think is just so different than a lot of other people out there. He's so focused on it, and the way he practices, the way he approaches it, I think is just so different. I mean, again, people cry about throw loops all day, but he throw looped Kakeru, who has OD amnesia. And OD amnesia, everyone's like, it's so broken that it stops throws. And then MenaRD throw looped him, and there was no point in time in which Kakeru ever got OD amnesia out on the throw. So it's like, what is it? Is it too cheap because it counters throws, or is throw loops too cheap? You know, like it's kind of crazy. So yeah, I think it was Broski who said it's like MENA could read your mind while he's on offense. Like when he's on you, it's so hard to get him off. I think this really showed in the Kakaru match. Yeah, actually, for sure. Do you believe he isn't creating content because money-wise he doesn't need to? Yes. Yes. And also, I mean, I think he's just spending a lot of time practicing. I mean, he's constantly playing, he's constantly improving, and the results are definitely showing for it. So again, you know, MenaRD is just, I don't think anybody compares to him. And, you know, obviously, you know, Kakeru, I was really glad to see get back up to grand finals, despite, you know, MenaRD kind of running through him. But, you know, Kakeru hasn't had those results in a while. So I'm glad to see that he was back. But let's also give a shout outs to Lex, because Lex is just, I mean, what a surprise. What a Cinderella story for him. Again, he's JB's brother who lived in New York. When JB moved to LA, I believe Lex also moved to LA for a while. But then eventually he moved to England and has become one of the strongest Guile players out there. And then he just comes to Evo Japan and he makes it into winners finals on the winner side for top 6. You know, with Guile, VX Bao made it to winners side of top 6 without dropping a single game. He 2-0'd everybody that he played. And that was Lex versus VX Bao was the first round matchup, and everybody will tell you that, you know, JP beats up on Guile. And Lex 3-0'd VX Bao. He 3-0'd VX Bao in winners semifinals in the winner side of top 6, which is absolutely insane. So winners finals was literally an all Western players matchup, and MenaRD versus Lex. Now Kakeru did eventually take Lex down to get into grand finals. But again, you know, we'll get into a little bit more of this theme a little bit later on how strong the West has become in a lot of games. So, but yeah, like, what a performance by Lex. Shout outs to him. And Ryukichi showing that Ken still is very, very strong in this game. And that I still think a lot of the claims of Ken's demise are a little bit premature over here. But Moke and VX Bao with the JP and the Chun-Li rounding out that top 6. So yeah, I mean, you know, just from a Street Fighter 6 standpoint, if we look at the game over here, we've got, you know, a Chun-Li in here. We have 2 JPs. So clearly JP still very, very strong. All claims of him being destroyed after the nerfs very highly exaggerated here. But, you know, it's still very interesting to see, because outside of Uma at Capcom Cup, and that might just be more Uma than anything, you know, characters like Juri and Cammy still having trouble performing to the level that people claim that they're at, you know, in big tournaments. Cammy obviously does really well in a lot of events, and a lot of times that's usually thanks to, you know, Kazunoko and Punk, right? Like, those are the 2 players that make Cammy look very, very strong. And then Uma with Juri. But honestly, like, we don't see a lot of Cammy and Juri. It's really, really, really interesting. And yeah, I know a lot of people think Cammy is significantly better than Juri, which is, you know, might be true. But I actually think that they're kind of in a similar situation where both of them are really strong, but, you know, they don't have that little extra oomph, right? So even though Luke doesn't have any shenanigans, and, you know, has to be played kind of fundamental, his damage is ridiculous. And not only that, but his drive gauge usage is really, really kind to him. I think this is the weakness that people don't talk about with Cammy and Juri, is that Cammy and Juri are basically on the verge of burnout, like, all the time. Like, you have to manage their drive gauge so well Whereas Luke, you know, if he drive rushes and gets a crouching strong, he spent 1 bar, but then he gets crouching fierce into perfect, into blam. And none of that costs any drive gauge, and he gets a ton of damage. He can get crouch fierce in the corner into perfect, jump up into jump strong into blam, into level 1, and it didn't cost any drive gauge, right? So that is one of his strengths. It's the same strength that Ken has. That Ken has run into Tatsu for corner carry, run into DP for good, you know, juggle enders and stuff like that. Oh, no. I do think Cammy is better than Jury. But I think they're both in the same kind of region. Let's just put it that way. They're both in that 6, 7, 8 block. They're like 6, 7, 8 best character, maybe 7th, 8th, or 8th, 9th, because you got to put DJ and Guile in there as well, potentially above them. It's really interesting. It's really interesting discussion. But I mean, like I said, from a results standpoint, I mean, like I said, we got Luke and Blanka, JP, Guile, Ken, JP, and Chun-Li. Like, I think that's a pretty solid top 5 right there in Luke, Blanka, JP, Ken, and Chun-Li. Like, I think that's a pretty decent top 5. Honestly, like, that actually, I think, might actually be my top 5 characters in the game currently. It's kind of nuts. So, yeah, I mean, again, Luke, Blanka, so strong. Ken, still clearly strong, but very interesting, the characters that we don't see, honestly. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody is outperforming Japan. You know, the question was put out that if Japan is the strongest region, then how come players from weaker regions constantly outperform them? You can't grade a region off of their best player. If you're talking region, you're gonna have to talk about overall strength of the region. And Japan, you know, their online CPT having 1,000 players, you know, 5,000 players entering here, Evo Japan, and just, you know, you look at the CFN ratings and stuff like that. Now, obviously, there is matchmaking issues causing some problems with that. But, you know, there's no question that Japan is the strongest region. However, the top players, the top players, the best players, like the top 5 best players in the world, do they contain any Japanese players at this point? That's an interesting question, right? I don't know the answer to that. And it might be a situation where it doesn't. That could actually be a possibility. So, but yeah, obviously the good netcode and then being able to watch people and just everybody getting the game at the same time, the amount of information, knowledge, et cetera, it just makes it so the world can keep up really, really well. Yeah, maybe Akuma will help Tokido out. Who knows? Depends on how good Akuma turns out, but we'll talk about him a little bit later. But yeah, Street Fighter 6, that's Street Fighter 6 results. Obviously, I'm going to be able to talk about that the most, and I apologize in advance for people really, really wanting to see what I have to say about some of these other games, because unfortunately, you know, the storylines coming into the games and, you know, my knowledge of some of these players isn't as strong. So a couple of these games I'm not going to be able to say as much. So let's just kind of blast through the rest of the games over here. Again, obviously, I know Street Fighter the most out of everything, so I apologize about that. You know, I wish this wasn't such a Street Fighter 6 heavy channel. I wish I could cover a lot more things, but that it's hard when I'm by myself. Now, we used to have David cover NRS, you know, and stuff like that, but it's just not happening that much anymore. So, all right, so let's talk about Tekken 8 here. Chikurin took it grand finals with Lily. A lot of people not surprised about that. Low high with the Dragunov, and I know that those are 2 characters a lot of people have been complaining about. New patch notes came out. It sounds like Dragunov got nerfed, but I didn't see anybody say anything about Lily. So does this mean that Lily is gonna be the best character in the game right now? Yeah, and yeah, exactly. Shay says Chikurin played every character that became top tier, never complained, never asked for changes, just adapted. And even in his winning speech, he was like, "I really enjoy Tekken 8." He was like, "People just aren't used to the game. Get used to what this game does, and let's just have fun. I really like this game." And it was very refreshing to see because we've had other top players say they want to win just so they can talk shit about Tekken 8 right now. Yeah, Azucena and Dragunov in the patch apparently got nerfed, and they said people were saying that Azucena seems to be getting the worst of it, but we'll actually see what happens. There's another patch plan already for next month. Wow, that's fast. But, I know Tekken is in a position like Street Fighter obviously didn't have patches for a long time, but I mean, like I said, this game came out strangely extremely balanced. Again, yes, can Manon and Lily and Kim and Honda and Ryu get a little more help? Of course. But still, it's not to the degree that I think we're seeing a lot of these other games situation right now. So I mean, it's crazy how strangely balanced that game came out on launch. So I don't see the quick patches from Tekken as necessarily a bad thing. If it is more normalization to get to the point where some of the strong characters aren't as good, I think that's great. Maybe they don't want Eddie to be able to get to gold ranks by mashing only 3 in a macro. With Jin Mashima on Twitch right now. Like, this is the channel that's getting the most watch on Tekken on Twitch right now. Jin Mashima, if you guys haven't heard about Jin Mashima, literally someone just programmed a macro to keep hitting 3 and threw him into rank. He threw him into rank, and this character he's beating a lot of people. And and like Carlitos from Texas saying that he has almost 2K viewers right now, dude. Like, it'd be funny. I should just put Jin Mashima on the screen in the corner up here so you guys can just watch all day, dude. Like, it's kind of nuts. Obviously there's things to adjust, and I mean, I think that's fine. That's not necessarily a sign that a game is badly made or anything like that. Tekken is experimenting with new mechanics and, always tweaking characters between games. And so, they're trying different things. And so, obviously if the balance is a little off, then let's fix it. So, okay. I mean, if they made it Ken Masters, he would just die, right? There's not a single button you could mash to act. I mean, because literally one of Eddie's best combos, like to get the hit, is actually legit. 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. Like, just keep hitting 3, and he will do a full juggle spiral combo, and that actually works really well. That's actually a legit combo. That's actually one of the highest damages that he can get out of a standard combo for him. So yeah, that's why this actually works. Yeah, Eddie Gordo with a 3. Yep, exactly. But the interesting thing to really note about this is that, there has been a lot of complaints recently that Tekken 8 is random, that the heat mechanic is dumb, that it lets, it helps scrubs, lets bad people beat good people. First place was Chikurin. Second place was Lohai. Third place was Chanel. Fourth place was Mangja, aka Maglu. And tied for fifth place was Double and Infested. These are all known Tekken players, okay? Like, this is these players. I mean, clearly Chikurin, Lohai, Chanel have been here for quite some time. And if, obviously Mangja, Infested, and Double, not necessarily as known, but if you look at their results, top 16 at previous Evos, grand finals at, other major events, etc. These are all clearly good players. The only thing that seems to be a little bit different is that we did get 2 law players in here. If I'm not mistaken, it's Mangja and Double are law players. So maybe Law has been, is eating good in this game. And so they kind of snuck in there. But honestly, all of the top 6 players are people that we've heard of, right? I mean, if you go down the list over here, then comes John Ding and Tekken Master in tied for 7th place. And then we go to 9th place over here. We got Yagami, Mulgold, Kokoma, Cherry Berry Mango, I think it is, CBM, Book, Rangchu, Pinya, Male Ill Saint. Like, all the way down to, like, top 32, Jimmy J. Tran is here. Ulsana's here. Like, Yu is here. Like, these are all players that we know. I agree with that, Necromancy Black. No king in top 6, buff king. Buff king. Yeah, I think that's a good point. Good point. Buff king. But again, a lot of these, like, are there any of these players here that feel like nobody was deserved to be here? I don't know if that's the case, right? Obviously, I don't know all the players well enough, but, like, I don't think anybody scrubbed their way in the top 32 thanks to heat mechanics, so I don't see it. I don't see it. And again, it can just come down to the fact that, a lot of players are just having trouble adjusting to the heat mechanics. And it's not necessarily that the game is scrubby. It's just that it's different and it's new and it's something that you're not used to. And once we keep playing this game after a while, I mean, it's funny, during the Street Fighter V days, if you talk to anybody, people would have been like, oh, V-Trigger is way more broken than Ultra combos were. Ultra combos are totally fair. You can't cancel into them. They scale, blah, blah, blah. And when Street Fighter 4 came out, it was like, this is the stupidest thing, comeback mechanic. This lets everybody win. Ultras are dumb, and like, the game will get balanced. The game will get patched. Things will be adjusted. But at the same time, once we get used to things, we get to a point where we know how to play around these things. Sajam called it right now a fighting game's what do you call it? Like an arms race or like a complaining arms race, that people just get super mad about things, which I admit I do too all the time, but I'm justified because Kim does suck and she needs buffs. But, honestly, like, we have to let games be different. Discourse arms race, that's what it is. Thank you. We have to let games be different. We have to let them be able to give us something that the previous games didn't. And I think that's really, really important. Now, again, Tekken and Guilty Gear didn't used to do that. They used to be very legacy-based. But even then, a lot of people would hate the new Tekkens and the new Guilty Gears that came out. A lot of XX players hated Exerd because they hated the Roman cancel system and stuff. They thought Roman cancel was dumbed down, et cetera, et cetera. So, again, it's just a circle of life at this point. It's always like this. This is what we do with every fighting game. New one comes out, people hate it. And the fact that Street Fighter 6 even came out as well as it did and had that honeymoon period is actually, like I said, a good indication of how well the game actually did. Honestly, how nice the game came out of the gate, that everybody was like, this is so good. This game is so good. And now everybody's like, Drive Rush is the dumbest thing in the world. I hate Drive Rush. But, like, whatever, dude. Like, the fact that it actually took a few months to get to that point is actually a good sign. I mean, it's an interesting way to say that, Necromancy Black, when you said there's so many people playing Tekken 8 and Strive, the haters can't see the forest from the trees and realize they're not important to the game. I mean, yeah, there is that extent to which, they're not important. But the thing about it is, because the lower level players, the casual players, will never really be able to tell the difference between, like, extremely top tier characters, etc. The balance changes don't really affect them. So, balancing 4 top players is still an important kind of thing, honestly. So, the only time a new game came out and the community loved it was KOF 15. Yeah, KOF 15 was very, very much enjoyed. It's just a shame that we couldn't play the damn thing online. But again, KOF is still also a very legacy game, right? Because a lot of the skills that you learned in the old games, I mean, the fact that the KOF zone and the KOF basics video, who was it that made those videos again? Shoot, why can't I remember his name right now? YouTube KOF zone. Dandy J. The fact that people could watch Dandy J's videos about 98 and apply it to KOF 15 is really an indication of how much of a legacy game KOF is. So, of course, KOF fans are going to come out and love the game out the gate because it's basically kind of what they wanted to have happen. If Tekken 8 came out and didn't have heat, I think a lot more of the old school Tekken players would like it. If Strive came out and still had all of the crazy, jump installs and faultless defense cancels and, just defense, etc., that the other games had, I'm sure a lot of the old school players would have loved it as well. But KOF, if it got a shakeup in terms of trying to bring in new audiences, would a lot of the old school KOF players hate it? Yes, they absolutely would. They would absolutely despise the game. Like, what if they made short hop super easy? Hey, what's up from France? Sukopto. But yeah, like, what if they made short hop, hyper hop, the default instead, and now you have to input stuff to get the regular jumps, because hyper hop, like, people would get mad, So again, it's we have to have the ability to let games be different. I think that's really, really important. So, oh yeah, for legacy franchises, there's often new games that get hated. I bet people don't remember when 13 came out. People liked it for being better than 12, but a lot of old KOF players hated it because everyone was missing their moves, and HD mode was easy mode. No, I mean, there is that. Like I said, there are XX players that hate Exert, right? There are, Tekken 6 players who didn't like Tekken 7, or Tekken Tag 2 players that didn't like 7. Heck, there were Tekken 6 players that didn't like Tekken Tag 2 because of the Superman kind of guard breaky kind of thing, the burst kind of mechanic in there and stuff like that. But again, I just posted up videos about Strive, and you want to hear the level of just absolute vitriol that Exert players throw out at Strive. I mean, it is another level of just pure hate. Like, these people, like, the way they talk about Strive, it's literally like Arxis went and, like, kicked their dog, dude. It's crazy. It is absolutely insane. Imagine Obama's chat is the same way. Oh, God. Oh, man. So, yeah, that's just the thing, right? So, when you do a big change like that, to legacy fighters, you will get, like, just the absolute most insane hatred possible. So if that happened to a KOF, I guarantee you will get the same thing, especially because KOF fans are also very dedicated and very loyal, right? A lot of players, I mean, I still remember Justin at a tournament won KOF 2002, and I was like, do you even play that game? He's like, I just played it like it was 98. I just pretended it was 98, and he still won. So, it's just how it is. So, Strive community, to me, is the youngest, freshest, and most inclusive community in the FGC. Yeah, it's great, dude. It's great. It's Justin still, though. I mean, if you go into Alpha 3 trying to play it like Alpha 2, you're not going to succeed, even if you're Justin Wong. Let's put it that way. So, right. So playing any KOF like it's 98 will get you pretty far. Exactly. So it is still one of the strongest legacy fighters out there, right? It is still one of the strongest legacy fighters, which is why I had suggested doing the shakeups in ranked mode, you know, of forcing you to play one character up until you get to like gold rank or something like that. And you have to get 3 characters up to gold rank, then you can advance past that and finally have to put together a full team to actually play, which would actually be kind of neat, honestly. I think that would actually be really cool. Wait, which game was Dan Kuga? What game is Dan Kuga? What the hell is that? Super Beast Machine God. The hell? And he won a tournament, huh? Okay. That's funny. Regardless, my point being is that, look, the same people are winning Tekken, okay? And sure, you know, Knee finished under top 32, I believe. JDCR finished in top 30. No, so JDCR and Knee both finished in top 32. It'll take a little bit. They'll get there, dude. Don't worry about it. I'm not worried about them. They're good enough that they're gonna be really good. Chikurin switched to pad, huh? Wow. Interesting. Interesting. But yeah, I mean, again, all you know, fear that this game is just completely random and that, you know, scrubs can win this game, you know, highly exaggerated. And yeah, you know, people are talking like saying like, oh, but you know, Kudan's in 65th place. Keep in mind, again, this is out of 1,247 players. 1,247 players, okay? They did good. They did just fine. They did just fine, okay? Nobody's hurting over here. Getting 65th place out of 1,245, you're doing fine. So, oh, right. Dude, it was so crazy. Before Lydia got announced, everybody was saying, I can't wait to see Lydia. And I was like, you really think they'll bring Lydia back? Because I hadn't heard anything about leaks. And then they announced Lydia, and I was like, oh, okay. I was like, did people know? You know, oh, shoot. And you know what? I made a mistake over here. Let's actually add Lydia over here. I should be watching that too as well. So here we go. So yeah, I mean, I think that's cool. Usually we don't see characters like that return so quickly. I mean, I was already surprised that Leroy was back in the game, but usually characters introduced in the previous game, they don't bring back as fast because they want to bring back characters from other games, you know, that haven't been back for a while kind of thing. So I was actually surprised Lydia came back so quickly, but I'm kind of glad to see it because it's still cool to have that representative from Poland. And, you know, Harada and Tekken and everybody are doing such a good job trying to make the game as international as possible, having characters from all the different regions and actually speaking their language, which I think is really, really cool. Yeah, dude, right, Slick Tricks? Like, none of the KOF 14 characters came back, right? Like almost none. It's kind of crazy. So yeah, I think the tales of you know, Tekken 8 being scrubby are highly exaggerated. I think people, you know, like Chikurin said, like, he's like, I enjoy the game, I like the game, just learn to use the heat system. And he won. He embraced it. He won. He was winning before. So look, just keep that in mind, right? Yeah, now did he go to like top tier? Yeah, he did, but I mean, look, that's what you do sometimes, man. Like I said with MenaRD, just because Mena is going to Blanka and Luke doesn't mean he's being carried by the characters. Chikurin clearly is not being carried by Lily because we don't see 700 Lilies in top 8. We'll get to that in a little bit. But, you know, like clearly, you know, you're not going to get carried by the character for free. I mean, clearly at that previous Evo Japan where we had 6 or 7 Leroys in top 8, yes, okay, that was a problem. But in this situation, we didn't have like 7 Lilies and Dragonovs here in top 8s. In fact, we had 2 Laws in the top 6, right? So, you know, maybe Law is the problem, you know? Oh man, but yeah, that was Tekken 7. Now for Grand Blue Fantasy versus Rising again, I'm not as familiar with the storylines coming in here with all the players and stuff. Remember, I was learning the game for Arc World Tour, so and let Ebonic Plague do most of the carrying in terms of knowledge with the game and etc. etc. So, obviously for me, just the big news is that Gamera, who's obviously really good, did end up getting second place after being reset. He went 0-3 and I'm sorry, yeah, 0-3 and 1 and I'm sorry. He won the first set to reset at 3-0. But his opponent, what was his opponent's name? It's just listed in Japanese here. I don't remember what the player's name was phonetically in English. Rookies, that's what it was. Grand Blue is a weapons-based fighter. Yes, Grand Blue is a weapon-based fighter. But Rookies ended up taking it in the second set, 3-1 over Gamera. So, good job, obviously, to Rookies there taking it. Like I said, I apologize. I wish I could say more about this like I could about a lot of the other games, but, I just haven't been, keeping up with the storylines and stuff such as much as some of these other games. So we're going to move on to Third Strike, which apparently was what? Top 6 was, what is it? 4 Yuns and 2 Chuns? 4 Yuns and 2 Chuns, I think it was what they said. And, people always sit there and say, Third Strike is so balanced. Look at Co-op Cup, Remy's and Q's and there's no money on the line for that tournament. I know at Evo in the previous years when we used to run Evo, Third Strike at Evo a long time ago when it was one of the main games, it was the same thing. It was just yun, 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 chun, 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 ken, 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 yun, 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 ken, 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 chun, chun, chun. It was the same entire thing. When you put more at stake on the line, this is what happens. So when people talk about like, oh my God, Street Fighter 6 is so unbalanced. Every single top 8, we have one Luke. God, it's just like... you're just like, come on, come on. Oh, and a Yang, of course, Yang. But I mean, Yang largely has kind of risen up to number 4 spot, maybe even number 3 spot over Ken. I've heard some people put Yang above Ken at this point. So Yang is just right there as one of the top characters in the game, right? But this game, I mean, this is the way it works. Super Turbo will be the same thing. You put $1 million on the line on Super Turbo, what are we going to see? Yo, all day. You know what I mean? Like, seriously. That's just how it is, honestly. We have to understand how much esports and money changes the way people approach games. We want to glorify these old games as balanced and having variety, and modern games are, but like, it's not even comparable. Modern games are like so much better balanced than anything that we've seen in the fighting game era. Like right now, of all the main games that were played, that were, at Evo Japan, that were released recently, like overall, the whole scope of all those games is the best balance that we've ever had in fighting games. Literally, like legit. Like, there is literally no way you can argue against that. In an era, compared to an era where we had MVC2 and Super Turbo and Third Strike, you just can't compare it. But, people seeing this, I mean, most people who know shouldn't be surprised. Most people who are new to Third Strike might have been watching this and being like, what the hell? Why is it just these same characters? Why do we have a Young Grand Finals? Get ready for Evo Worlds in Vegas, too. Get ready for Evo Worlds, okay? It is not going to be very different, okay? We may get 1 or 2 guys in there sneaking in and all of a sudden doing really well with some other characters, but trust me when I say that we are going to see a lot of Yuns and Chuns and Kens and Yangs at Evo worlds as well. But again, like I said, that doesn't necessarily make Third Strike a bad game. Like, I'm not saying Third Strike suck. Like, I mean, that's just the nature of how a lot of old school fighting games were. And again, you know, trying to sit here and claim that Street Fighter 6 isn't balanced, you know, or be like Strive isn't balanced or KOF 15 isn't balanced. Like, you don't understand. Like, the reason why you have to point this out is not, you know, it's, you know, like, oh, we don't have to worry about making it perfectly balanced because it was so much worse in the past. So it's okay that it's slightly unbalanced now. No, that's not what I'm saying. The truth is that it's really hard to balance fighting games, okay? So if you expect a fighting game to just come out and be extremely balanced because the devs just deemed it so, like, you have another thing coming. Honestly, you really have another thing coming. So it's just, it's not easy to balance fighting games. And so to complain about the state of the games that we have right now is just, I mean, you're just like, come on, dude, come on. Oh, man. All right. So that's Third Strike. King of Fighters 15. Obviously, I mean, I know a lot of people said that this top 6 was really, really good. And obviously the big news is that Shanghai didn't win it, which means I think this is the first Evo that he's entered that he didn't win. So shout outs to ET. I mean, the crazy thing is that M-Dash actually beat Shanghai 2-0 right at the start of the top 8. So it was like, oh no, oh my God, is Shanghai vulnerable at this point? Because he didn't win the SNK World Championships either. But getting knocked into the losers bracket seemed to have turned something on in Shanghai. And then Shanghai 2-0'd Score. Then he 2-0'd Mad KOF. And then he 3-0'd M-Dash, who was the person who sent him the losers bracket. And then he eked out grand finals and won 3-2 against ET. So it almost seemed like it was just going to be okay, there you go, Shanghai. And he's just going to take it at this point. But ET in the reset set actually won this and was able to finally defeat Shanghai here. Now, I want to say, like, you know, Shanghai's won every Evo that he's attended that when it was a main game, but I don't know if that's true, because didn't he lose in KOF 14 to ET as well? Or was that not what happened there? I could have swore ET did beat Shanghai in KOF 14 when it was the official game over there. Okay, yeah. So Shanghai has lost it before, and ET was the person who defeated him before as well. So ET doing this again. No, it wasn't an Evo Japan. It was a regular Evo. For sure, it was a regular Evo. That ET won that KOF 14 over there. So clearly, it seems like ET is, you know, perhaps the second best player in the world right now. You know, in the past decade, you know, between 14 and 15 and such. But you know, it's good. It's good to see this kind of parity in KOF. You know, you don't want to see the same guy beating everybody and dominating all day. So I think this is actually kind of exciting. I think this is really cool to see that. And again, I didn't watch it fully, but I definitely heard a lot, you know, because I had it, you know, in second monitor status while I was doing some other work. But, you know, it sounded like it was a super, super good set. So I'm going to have to go back and watch it at one point in time. And yeah, Olaf, of course, can't stop talking about Pineapple because Pineapple using Angel and Genitz, right? I mean, like, he was one Blue Mary away from basically being Olaf, you know, Olaf's spirit animal at this point. So, yeah, I mean, it's great to see. And again, KOF 15 in a really wonderful balanced position. Could it take another balance patch? Maybe, yeah. I mean, just nerf Isla slightly. What is it? I think Olaf said Rio is considered really, really strong as well. But otherwise, the game is in a great set. And again, please, where's our Season 3? We didn't get any Season 3 announcements at Evo Japan, but again, we'll cover this a lot more once we get to Synchronize tomorrow. So take a look for that, and Olaf and I will be talking a lot more about the KOF stuff, and also obviously a lot of Children of the Wolves information. I did it again. City of the Wolves. City of the Wolves. We'll be talking a lot about City of the Wolves tomorrow with all the announcements and new footage that we got. Right, exactly. Like Isla's the best, but she's not Cronin. She's not even where, like Bijane was, They do probably have to be a little more careful with their nerfs because, obviously Cronin and Bijane, like people don't even, use those characters anymore. It's crazy. But KOF has also been kind of like that because, the game is very systems heavy. And I've said the same thing about Street Fighter 6 as well. The game is very systems heavy. And so it's always just going to be the characters that have the haves and the have-nots, right? When a system mechanics are very strong, the top tiers come down to the haves and the have-nots, right? Street Fighter 6, the same way. It's why I believe the system is so strong in that game. That's why I feel like if you have an ODDP, you have a significant advantage. And the characters that don't have it are just going to be weak because of the way the game plays, because of the aggression in the corners. So it really is just that kind of situation. So, well, that's just the thing, JNV11. It has nothing to do with X-Men 97. It just has to do with the fact that the arcade game was X-Men Children of the Atom. So every time I see Kota, I think Children of the Atom, Children of the Atom, Children of the Atom. And so now I see COTW, the COT automatically makes me think Children of the. So it's just how it works. Street Fighter 6 is hard to be consistent, which is what makes MenaRD ridiculous. So, but again, KOF 15, is it in its best balanced state that it's ever been? Absolutely, right? Yeah, see, like John just says in the chat that the tier list in KOF 15 is S tier characters we know are good, A tier characters people don't play but are very good. There's barely, like, the balance is so much better than back during the cool Cronin, Bijane era. So it's definitely far improved over that. So I think KOF 15 is in a great state. It's just, are we going to get more? Are we going to get more out of King of Fighters 15? And like I said, I had always hoped that King of 15 would kind of, eventually morph into a dream match game where you just put everybody in it because Verse gives you the excuse to do that, and just like, fuck it, put in Vice and Mature, bring back, the USA team, et cetera. But now I don't know if we're going to get anything because honestly, with all what we've seen from City of the Wolves, they seem like they are putting in a lot of effort into that game because that game is looking really, really, really strong right now. So people are definitely excited about City of the Wolves. Like I said, we'll talk all about it on Synchronized tomorrow. But the general consensus for City of the Wolves so far, it has been extremely positive from everybody who's been messing with the game. Under Night in Birth 2 Sis Celeste. Look, all I can say about this was that grand finals was Gordeau versus Gordeau, which means I don't feel so bad getting mopped by Gordeaus when I played rank in Under Night Birth in Sis Celeste, especially because I was like the bottom rank and they kept pairing me up with like these super strong Gordeau players. But Gordeau, I guess Gordeau is considered really strong in the game right now. But again, another game that I haven't been following as well enough to be able to comment on that. But Gordeau is, I guess he's pretty good right now. I don't know what the tier list is. And, even Game Genie saying Gordeau is aight. So I guess that means that, it's just those two players are just really, really strong. The old men at SNK right now are all original SNK members who are all former Fatal Fury staff. Children of the Wolves means a lot to them. And Oda even said they weren't going to make, I said Children again, City of the Wolves until they knew they could do it justice. Well, there you go. So there you go. They definitely sounds like they have a lot of more at stake and a lot more personal reasons to work really, really hard at that game. So, and then the last game was Guilty Gear Strive. And of course, I mean, dude, Tempest NYC, I have been saying, has been the most consistent, the strongest and the most consistent NA player. Like, he constantly gets top 8s and wins big events against the best players, etc., etc. So to see him come in here and top 6 winner side, and 3-0 Mochi, 3-0 Sanakan, and then 3-0 Sanakan again, he went 9-0. And in fact, he ran so fast that even though I had the matches going on while I was like hanging out and talking with other people, I missed all of Tempest. Like, it got to grand finals and I was like, wait, Tempest hasn't played his winners finals yet. How did we get to grand finals? Apparently he did, and he just sped run through the whole entire thing. But yeah, the fact that we actually have Tempest NYC taking a Guilty Gear game while being in Japan is just, I mean, like, honestly, unheard of. He only lost 3 games the entire run, huh? Okay. They were literally chatting to fill up time. Yeah. Yeah. Dude, Tempest, I mean, shout outs to him. I'm so happy for him, honestly. And I'm just so ecstatic for him. Really taking Evo Japan and just, kind of solidifying that. Like I said, I've not to be like that guy where like, I called it, but I've been saying that about Tempest for such a long time. He was one of my players of the year because I just thought, like he was just so consistent, and to see him take Strive in Japan. And, I mean, like, you could kind of tell he was trying hard not to cry. And, he just had like this crazy smile on his face. It was so awesome to see. But I mean, the parity is in the world is so good. And again, just shows you what good netcode can do. And, of course, all the Strive detractors, I'm just jumping out ahead of them. They're going to be like, well, it's because the game is scrubby and anybody could win. And it's shut up. Shut up. Look, when you talk crap about a game like that, you really do disrespect the people who play the game and enjoy the game and who work hard at the game. And again, if it is so random, we wouldn't see this consistency, right? Gobo, Churara, Tempest NYC, and Mochi. Remember, Mochi won Arc World Tour the previous year. Like, it's clear that the consistency is still there. The consistency is clearly still there. So it's just, again, people want to get mad and call games that they don't enjoy random. And I think that's just, it's so unfair to the people who actually play the game, because clearly they are putting in the work. They are studying, they're doing their job and improving at the game and taking advantage of the nuance and depth that the games actually do possess. And, sitting there, and just because the game doesn't work for you doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad game. Like I said, can we say that Strive is a little more simpler than Exert? Of course, yes, absolutely, that's the case. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the game is random or it's much easier to win, because, again, doesn't matter how simple you make a fighting game. Dive kick, right? Like, there were some people who were just better at dive kick than other people. There was only 2 buttons in that game. That game was like, no matter how simple you make it, as long as there's an element of strategy in there, it is going to be a very strategic game, right? That's just how it works, honestly. Yeah, it was really cool to see that Gobo, played ABBA a couple of times, especially because of the doom and gloom that surrounded ABBA on release, people saying that she was just going to be useless. So it's actually cool to see Gobo doing well with ABBA, and that people are all saying that, even PC Genjin here saying that ABBA is actually good. So that's actually really, really cool to hear, honestly. So yeah, fighting games are great, and Evo Japan was great. Like I said, I was glad to hear that it sounded like it was run a lot better, went very, very smoothly. Sounded like people had a really good time there. And, Evo Japan, they already announced, is coming back next year. Shout outs to Rick and especially Markman, who I know has been just working overtime, trying to get Evo Japan to that new level. They even had Canon Awards there. I know one of the people who won it was Matsuda, who runs the Third Strike Co-op Cup, and he was hired to run Evo Japan this year, if I'm not mistaken. I think he worked on it last year, but when you actually get people who have that experience, who know the FGC, who know how to run events, it's such a different story. And so I'm really glad to hear that Evo Japan was run really well. The English broadcast, shout outs to the Tenno guys. It looked like everybody who was there had a great amount of fun while commentating it, and they got to do a lot of just cool stuff. I mean, I did it last year. I remember how much fun it was, so it was really cool to see them all having such a good time out there. Just the overall production for Evo Japan was really great. Yeah, the Twitch situation sucked because their channel got banned. I don't know if we ever found out why, but that's how it's gonna happen. So we'll talk about the SF6 balance patch 2 days before Combo Breaker Kuma Radio when I get to Akuma over here. So. But yeah, again, obviously there were a lot of reveals, but I'll go through them all one by one over here. So keep an eye out for the reveal videos as I put them out one by one onto YouTube. So just keep an eye out for those. Sure. Okay. I don't even remember what that's a reference to, Mike Lee, but yeah. But there you go. So great job to the entire Evo staff. Really, really happy that everything, went well. And I'm glad that, everybody seemed to enjoy it. The production was really good. I had a great time watching the matches that I was able to see as well. And so, it's cool. And it's also cool to see, how much it means for people to win Evo Japan. Like, it's not just like, oh, Evo Japan is the smaller version of Evo Worlds. No, when you win Evo Japan, it definitely means a lot. And so like MenaRD, for example, now he is officially an Evo winner, although he does say that he definitely wants to take Evo Worlds as well, that his job was not done yet. So, but oh yeah, shout outs to Justin for being the man on the field and stuff. So again, a lot of cool things that they did over there. Really happy to see Evo Japan doing really well and being run better and better, getting better and better each year, which just only means that I look forward to next year and the year after that and so on and so forth. But we're going to get to these reveals coming up really soon. Probably just a short video for each of these reveals here, but we'll talk about those. So for those of you on Twitch, stick around. But for those of you on YouTube, let me know what your experience was like watching Evo Japan, what some of your favorite matches were. And thank you for watching, and thank you for make sure you like and subscribe. And remember that the day that this podcast graced your ears was the most important day of your life. But for me,
it was Tuesday.